Cheerleader jokes, cheerleading jokes. Q. What do you call two nuns and a cheerleader? A. Two tight ends and a wide receiver. Q. Why is a cheerleader like railway tracks? A. 'Cause she's been laid all over the country. Q. What do cheerleaders drink before they go to a basketball game? A. Root beer. Q. Why did the ghost become a cheerleader? A. She liked to show off her school spirit. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and a hockey player? A. A cheerleader handles more than one stick at a time. Q. What is a cheerleader's favorite color? A. Yeller. Q. What is a cheerleader's favorite cereal? A. Cheerios. Q. What do bananas do best in cheerleading? A. The splits. Q. What did the cheerleader's left leg say to her right? A. As if they've ever met. Q. What do you call a cheerleader with pigtails? A. A blowjob with handlebars. Q. What do you get when you put 28 Alabama cheerleaders in one room? A. A full set of teeth. Q. Why don't cheerleaders in San Francisco wear short black mini skirts? A. Because their balls would show. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and a bowling ball? A. You can only get 3 of your fingers inside a bowling ball. Q. How many cheerleaders does it take to screw in a light bulb? A. None. They are too busy screwing the team. Q. How does a cheerleader answer the phone? A. HELLO. Q. What happened to the cheerleader when she did the splits? A. 10 class rings fell out. Q. What's the difference between a cheerlead and a rooster? A. A rooster says in the morning, cockle-doodle-doo, while a cheerleader shouts, any cock-hell-doo. Q. Whom is the best cheerleader in the world? A. The one that never misses a period. Q. What do cheerleaders say after sex? A. Thanks, guys. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and trash? A. Trash gets taken out more often. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and the Titanic? A. They know how many men went down on the Titanic. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and the Atlantic coast? A. There's fewer crabs in the Atlantic. Q. Why was the cheerleader upset when she got her driver's license? A. Because she got an F in sex. Q. What do a Boeing 747 and a cheerleader have in common? A. Both contain a cockpit. Q. What's the difference between a cheerleader and a blow-up doll? A. Around 2 cans of hairspray. Q. Why is a cheerleader like a stamp? A. Both get licked, then stuck, and finally sent on their way. Q. How can you tell if a cheerleader has been playing with your computer? A. Your joystick will be soaking wet. Q. What's the difference between a mosquito and a cheerleader? A. Once you slap a mosquito, it will stop sucking. Q. What's a cheerleader's favorite nursery rhyme? A. Hump me dump me. Q. Why is a cheerleader like a doorknob? A. 'Cause everyone gets a turn. Q. Why does a cheerleader have an IQ 1 point higher than a copper's horse? A. So she won't shit on the street during a rally. Q. What's a cheerleader's idea of safe sex? A. Locking the car door. Q. What does a cheerleader do if she is not in bed by 10 p.m.? A. She picks up her purse and goes home. Q. Why does a cheerleader have TGIF on the front of her shirt? A. Tits go in front. Q. How can you tell who is a cheerleader's boyfriend? A. He's the one with the belt buckle that matches the impression in her forehead. Q. What does the Bermuda Triangle and cheerleaders have in common? A. They've both swallowed a lot of semen. Q. Why is a washing machine better than a cheerleader? A. Because you can drop your load in a washing machine, and it won't follow you around for a week. Q. How do you get a cheerleader off of her knees? A. Come. Q. what does a cheerleader and an instant win lottery ticket have in common? A. Simply scratch the box to win. Q. Did you hear about the cheerleader with a PhD in psychology? A. She'll blow your mind. 2. Q. Have you heard about the cheerleader virgin? A. She hangs out with the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. Q. What does a screen door and a cheerleader have in common? A. The more you bang it, the looser it gets. Q. What do you call a cheerleader with especially and PMS? A. A know-it-all bitch. Q. What do cheerleaders do after they comb their hair? A. They pull up their skirts. Q. How do you know when a cheerleader's been in your refrigerator? A. There's lipstick on your cucumbers. Q. What's a 68 to a cheerleader? A. It's where she goes down on you and you owe her one. Q. What's the white stuff you find in a cheerleader's panties? A. Clitty litter. Q. How can you tell if a cheerleader works in an office? A. There's a fold-up bed in the stock room and permanent smiles on the bosses' faces. Q. Why was the cheerleader disappointed with her trip to England? A. She found out Big Ben is only a clock. Q. Why did the cheerleader get fired from the sperm bank? A. Her employer found that she was embezzling. Q. What did the cheerleader say during an adult film? A. Hey fellas, look. There I am. Q. What do cheerleaders eat to increase their breast size? A. Silicone chips. Q. What does a tornado and a cheerleader have in common? A. They both eventually end up in a trailer park. Q. What is the difference between an LSU cheerleader and a catfish? A. One has whiskers and smells, the other is a fish. College football star. During preseason training, a college football lineman married one of the team's cheerleaders. The coach was a bit surprised and remarked to his star football player, "You are such a big, burly guy. Why in the world did you marry such a tiny, petite woman? She is no bigger than your hand." "That's right, coach," replied the lineman. "But, she's much better." Horny cheerleaders. 3 horny cheerleaders decide to take their boyfriends to a hotel and get fucked. So they check in at the hotel and go to their rooms. But their parents get worried for them and go looking for them. They find the hotel and go inside. They go up into the hallway and hear their girls. From one room they hear a loud scream. They barge into the room and shout, "Why are you screaming?" The cheerleader replies, "Because it hurts." Then, in the next room they hear giggling, so they bust into the room and shout, "Why are you giggling?" The cheerleader says, "Because it tickles." Then, the parents listen and listen, but can't hear the last girl, so they ask the other 2 where she is. The girls show them to the last girl's room, and kick down the door, to find the last of the girls still being fucked. Her parents ask her, "Why the fuck weren't you screaming, or giggling?" The cheerleader immediately answered, "But you told me not to talk with my mouth full."